Hey friends, my name is Mitch. Today we're going to be doing this dog in pastel. So we're going to be using velour paper, which is a fuzzy paper. If you run your hand across it, it feels like a flannel shirt or a low shag carpet. And the benefits of that is the pastel dust will fall into it and gives it a nice blurred look without you doing anything. So the pastel dust just sort of falls in the middle and the top of the fibers sort of hang out, and it gives it a nice look. So this dog took me about 4 hours, and I wanted to get a cartoony background back there. I didn't want a hyper realistic background. One of the problems that you have if you do any sort of painting, especially landscapes, is differentiating things that are close versus things that are far. So things that are far away, you don't want to put a lot of attention to them because they'll take it away from your main focus, which is like the house up front or the big tree up front or something like that. So what you do is you blur out the background. So what I did here was a similar effect where I blurred everything out, but in addition I made it a little cartoony because I wanted to bring out the playfulness of the dog and to make the dog sort of pop out so it looks like he's peeking out from a cartoon. So that was the idea here. This is a free tutorial, and we're going to do the first stage today is going to be the base coat and the eyes, and tomorrow we'll do the background and then the rest of the dog. So this is sped up about 4 times. If you want to see it real time, just reduce your speed to 25%. So let's get started. So we're using 11 by 14 paper, which is about the right size for this. That's one of the problems that you'll get into is your paper will be too big or it'll be too small or whatever. So this is the Mount Vision pastel on the bottom there, the grays. And then I have a green, and then I have 2 browns, and those are Grumber, dark brown, and you can see the green right there is called Spring. And those are Great American pastels. And a Great American is a really, really soft pastel. Soft means it doesn't have a lot of binder to it, so when you touch it to the paper, it just falls off instantly. So it's sort of nice to have a soft pastel. So you can see when I do the soft pastels, I'm going in the direction of the hair. That's going to be a very, very critical thing for you, is to go the direction of the hair. Even when you have a really large pastel, and you're doing base coats, like we're doing base coats right here. And base coat stage is just getting color on the paper and covering up the paper color. So that's all you really want to do. So let's say you're doing oil painting and you do a base coat. At that stage, all you're doing is just slathering color all over the place to get rid of the canvas color. And that's not what you want to do when you do a pet. When you do a pet, you want to get your base coat as close to the value as possible, and value being how light and dark it is. Because if you get pastels and you just slather brown all over the dog, you're going to have a lot of work ahead of you, and that's not what you want. I did the whole thing in under 4 hours because I chose the right color. That's basically what you chose, the right color, and you chose the right value. Again, value is how light or dark it is, and color is just sort of, you want to nail the the general color here. So using dark brown from Great American Pastel, and again I'm going the direction of the hair, so we're just doing the outside of the eye. And if you don't go the direction of the hair, it looks weird and you're going to have to redo it. And that's, as far as my technique goes, that's the main thing you don't want to do, is touch the same area twice. In other words, you put dark brown on it and then you come back with another big pastel, then you come back with another big pastel. That's a waste of time. You want to get it right the first time. Go to your pastels, find the right color, find the right value, and get it right the first time. And that's going to save you an incredible amount of time. Again, that's the difference. You see people that take a week to do a small pastel, and it looks about the same as what you're going to see as the final result here, right? And let's see, one of the problems that I see that causes that is going over the same area twice, 3 times, 4 times. You want to get it right the first time. Get it right means the right value, the right color, and go the direction of the hair. Sorry to say that 500 times. But it's critical, because at the end of the base coat stage here, 90% of the dog's done, and I spent an hour and a half. So if you can get to that point, and it's not hard. I mean, look, all I'm doing is just slathering color on there. So right here, I got a gray. So you'll see that part that I just touched is light brown, but I put a gray over it. And what that's going to do is give me a grayish light brown right there in that area, which is what I want. If you put down a darker gray and there's brown around it, it looks sort of brownish, even though you have no brown in it. I don't know if that makes any sense. It picks up the color beside it. And then you can also get your finger and slather dust from the nearby section over into the gray and brown it out a little more, and that'll give you that soft, furry look. So as you can see up here, it already looks really good. I know we're zoomed in here, and this is like crystal clean picture, but once you put it behind glass, it looks photorealistic, I mean, almost already, even before you've actually done anything. So it's looking really good. It's got that nice hair textured pattern. You see going the direction of the hair, going up and to the right, going down. So the hairs are going down, so my pastel application goes down. So this is a problem area up here, this dark area. One of the things you learn when doing any sort of a landscape in pastel, which seems to be the entry point into pastels lately, landscapes, one of the things you learn is to never ever use a very dark value. So, you know, in the scale of 1 to 10, they'll call that like a 8 or a 9 darkness value. You never want that in a landscape. But I disagree. When you get to pets, you absolutely need the darks. If you don't have a 9, an 8, maybe a 10 for solid black, then it's not going to look right. And solid black, a 10 scale in the darkness, is going to be the pupil of the eye. It's going to be a little corner of the underside of the ear, not the whole thing, just a little corner, and a little part of the nostril. So the nostril, don't do the whole thing black, because if you look at the reference photos, not all black. The center of the nostril reflects light, but the outside of the internal part of the nostril you'll see is solid black, and you want to respect that complete darkness with your pastels. So if you've learned landscape, you came from a landscape background, they say never use your darks. You have to use your darks. If you don't, it's not going to look good at all. Same thing with your lights. Get that bright white in there, get those darks in there. You have photorealism. It's just waiting on you at that point. So here I'm just touching, I'm just softening it up. When I say softening it up, I mean I'm jamming the pastel dust into the carpet fibers of this velour paper. And you'll like velour, it's cheap compared to others. It's only like if Dick Blick will have it on sale when they have their coupons for like 20% off. Velour qualifies. So when they do their Christmas sales, 35% off, you can get tons and tons of velour for like $3.50, $4 for a large sheet of velour. And so what I do is I'll stock up and buy 30 sheets. So, and that lasts me like all year. So it's velour paper. So when you see me rubbing my finger, what I'm doing is I'm jamming the dust into the lower part of the carpet fibers, and that's going to soften it up and it also lighten the value. So if it's too dark, run your finger across it, jam that dust, knock it off the top of the fibers into the bottom of the, in between the fibers, and it lightens it up because you've now blurred it and lightened it. And that's what you do when you run your finger across it. So obviously, like at the upper left there, and this little section here at the lower right, it's light already. I don't really want to lighten it up, so I won't do that. So then, when you get to the right section of his jowls, or just his face there, it has that soft, puffy light. So what I did was I made dots, and you'll see a recurring theme of dots. You don't want to get your pastel and do like a paintbrush and just slather color all over the place. You want to do some dots. Dots are good. Little short hairs are good. When you look at the face of any dog or cat, the closer you get to their eyes, their mouth, their nose, the shorter the hairs are. Well, some breeds not, but for the most part. Even if they have long hairs, once you get towards the eyes, most dogs, I mean there are exceptions, most dogs will have shorter hairs so they don't get into the dog's eye. You know, obviously when a dog is out hunting, he's got hairs hanging in his eye and he can't see his prey. So just most dog biology is shorter hairs as you get closer into the face. So here I'm going in with a black, and I'm pressing really, really light with this black. You can see it's super, super light. You don't want to get black and just slather it immediately really, really dark. You want to gradually come to complete black. So here you can see that's plenty dark. We'll make it super, super dark later right there, but I don't want to do that right now. So you can see in the ear, at the upper right of the picture there, that ear is not super dark yet either. But I'll come back and I'll accentuate and highlight that darkness later. I did say don't do the same thing 3-4 times. The only exception is going to be when you want to get something super, super dark. You want to come in probably a second time and get it dark. So now I'm talking about that I'm going to do the green. That's why I keep pointing. The green of the doggy bed is way, way too bright. It's too in your face. And when your eye immediately goes there, so I'm going to calm it down by using a less saturated green. Less saturated means you add the opposite color, which is red, just a little bit, to make it not as bright and in your face. So here I'm coming in with the dark. I just want to establish a base, a dark base. And good news, once you get away from the face, you don't really have to put a lot of detail into the body because nobody really looks there. Ditto with, you know, the bottom of the foot. Nobody really looks there. I usually will cut off the foot. Luckily this picture is a great picture, which helps. So, but I usually don't draw the bottom of the foot and things like that because I don't want people looking there. I want them looking dead center in the eyes. And we'll do the eyes at the end of this video, but I will separate that out into another video so you guys can see it real time, because that's the number one thing people ask is the eyes. And this dog's eyes are especially pretty, so I'll separate that video out. So here we go, just making hair-like patterns. And you can see the directional nature of the hairs. Gives it that 3D look. And you can look at the face, it already looks pretty good. Obviously there's not a lot of detail there yet, but it looks nice. So this is just a dark area, and what I'm doing is putting in the black and then mushing it down with my finger. And the reason is because I'm going to put a little brown on top of it, so I have a darkish brown. Unfortunately, I have 200 browns. I don't have an insanely dark blackish brown. I don't know why. I guess they just don't make that. I guess I need to get another set, which is sad because I already have 200 browns. And don't say 200 browns is too many because I used 13 on his face alone. So that ain't that many, believe it or not. So here you can see I want to get the hair pattern and the values in. So just sort of rubbing the brown into the black, getting a blackish brown, which is what you see in the picture, which is what I want. So here we go. So you can see the body is already coming together and looking really good, and I barely started on it. So now we go to the underside of the chest here, and you'll notice a green tint to the white in the shadows, and that's obviously coming off the doggy bed. So to get that, what I'm going to do is put a grayish white base. As you can see here, the grayish white base is going in, and once I get that in, I'm going to barely touch my green into it and then mix it in. Just mix the whole thing in so you have a greenish tint to the gray, and it looks like the picture. So that's the base coat stage. So you can see the base coat stage takes about an hour. So here I'm using, it's like an oil marker, and it looks terrible. I don't like those. I really don't. And the sad part is I bought like 5 of them. I like them for highlighting the eye. That's it. The problem with those is on velour, unless you're getting one distinct small spot, it doesn't look good. Okay, so here we go. This is the white from Giro Pastels. Giro is one of my favorite. Unfortunately, a lot of their colors look alike, so I don't use it as often as I'd like to, but I love their white and black and their saturated browns. They have a nice selection of those. And they also have something called green apple color, which makes the most beautiful long-haired grasses. Long grasses you have ever seen. All right, so you can see we're already done with the base coats. That took about 30 minutes. So now we're starting with the background and just getting the doggy bed color in. Again, the background needs to look cartoonish. I went back and forth with this, and the problem that you have, look at the reference picture. There's so much crap going on back there. So in order to minimize the distraction of the background, you have 2 choices. One, you can blur it out, which I could do, that's fine. Or 2, since the dog looks so fun and cute and looks like he's ready to go to the park and toss a frisbee around or run around the block with you or whatever, he looks like a lot of fun. And I want to accentuate that with a cartoony background, so that's what we're setting up with. We did a little of the dog bed. It's not going to look realistic at all. It's going to be cartoony. Alright, so now we've moved on to the nose, and just using a black from Unison. I think it's just Unison Dark something something. And then we're going to go in with our dark green 513, which is darker than black, oddly. And just touching it, you see, to the ear, and that's going to give you that dark area that I was talking about. So it's just a dark base coat for now. We're going to come back on the pencils in the next video. So now I'm just sort of playing around at this point, messing around with the background. I'm trying to see what color looks good. And this is a Giro pastel, and I'm just sort of playing around with it here, and I give up. Because the Giro pastel, it's such a hard pastel, it doesn't give a good coverage. So I come back later and fix all this crap with a Great American soft pastel. There's 3 great soft pastels. Great American, which is about $4 each. And then there's Terry Ludwig, which if you buy them separately, it's like $6 each. But if you get them in a set, they're like $3.50 each. And then there's Schminke, which I think is about $3 each. So they're all great. I mean, I can't, for super soft pastel, I like Great American personally because they're square. I know they didn't used to be square, but now they're square. But the square gives me a funky look that I like. The square gives me a hair type look. I don't know why. I guess it's just my personal preference. I'll just say that. So Great American Pastel, I'm just getting a sea blue, you know, sort of a bluish green, right? So getting a bluish green, sea bluish green, just putting in the base. Again, a cartoony base. Putting in the rug there. If you want to go for realism, that's fine. Please spend your time and have fun with it, but I thought it would just ruin the painting at this point. Again, personal preference. I want a cartoon with a realistic face punching out of it. Like, boo, hey, I'm here. So Great American Pastels on all those areas there. So I'm pretty much done with the base coat of the dog, which is actually pretty cool. Wow, I added saturation. I think this is the eye. Yeah, this is the eye. So again, I'm separating it out. The eye video will be real time. If you want to go watch that, check out my channel. So the eye. So let's talk about the eye. You want a super sharp pencil, obviously, because it's really, really detailed. So what I'm doing is I'm getting the darkest areas first. I want my darkest area first, and then I'm outlining that like this, like a this. So the dark area first, and then I'm going to come back with the color in between. So here you see there's an outline outside of the pupil, and it's like a brownish yellow. So what I did was I got my yellowish brown, went across there, and now I'm going and making the little highlights on the left side, the little highlights over there. Now I'm going back with a brown. It's my yellowish brown, and then I touch that up a little bit to make it better. So this is colored pencil. I'm using chocolate from Derwent Drawing brand. And the reason I'm not using black is because I want it dark, but I don't want it solid black. And I guess you'd have to do a lot of these paintings to figure out what's the difference between dark and solid black. But dark brown versus solid black looks completely different in the eye. And when I posted this on social media, it sort of exploded. And I think this is actually getting the most likes of anything I've ever posted. So apparently they like the eye. Everybody says the eyes look great. Yep, that actually might get the most likes ever. So here we go again with the chocolate, and here we go again with a few little highlights on the outside there, and then I'm going to come back in with the dark brown. A lot of people ask me, what do you use to rest your hand on? I don't. So you can see I just have my hand hovering there. And I guess once you do like hundreds of these, you don't really have a problem. But if you need to rest your hand, I recommend a piece of wax paper with the non-waxy side down, you know, the slippery side down. Or you can get glassine, which sounds really fancy, but all it is a piece of non-stick paper. And they put like patties of meat. They'll put glassine between them so it doesn't stick to the meat patty. And you can get that at your art supply store. Obviously it's super cheap. I just get a roll. I think the roll's like 20-something bucks, and it'll last you forever. Alright, so here's the eye. I got the dark in. Now I'm going back with a black colored pencil. And you gotta be careful with this because it will wax bloom and you will be suffering. So the eye already looks the way I want it. Now I'm going back in with my 513 Giro and just touching it. And you can see that Giro pastel dumps a lot of dust, even though it's a hard pastel. And it dumps a lot of that black dust into the eye and it looks great. So now all you need is just the outside of the eye at this point. So here we go with the other eye. So just roll it. So you can see this eye on there, on his left eye, or your right side eye. The middle is all solid black. Then you have a highlight. But you gotta be careful because you have the left side of that eye is almost straight down with a weird highlight coming in, so you have to be careful with that. So I just completely blacked in the pupil with a pastel, and I'm using 199 from Pitt Pastel, which is my absolute favorite black pastel pencil. So Pitt Pastel 199. So now we have an odd spot where there's no video. It'll start again in a moment. There we go. That's my editing, or lack of editing skills. So again, I went in with the yellowish brown. You can see the yellowish brown. And now I just barely touch it with white to get the highlights in there. So now it's looking good. So now all you need is the rest of the dog. So now we're starting that. Starting that with the eyelid. Coming across there. Now doing a little more highlight. So you can see the eyes are not that complex. It took me like 5 minutes. So it's a matter of looking, seeing something, and then duplicating it. So I'm already kind of starting the background at this point. I just drew a line. It's one of the things I want to, my goal as far as the background of this picture is to never have any straight up and down perfect lines, because that looks too serious. So now let us start. So this is Dark Flesh. It's a very soft pastel pencil from Caran d'Ache. And this is a colored pencil. I know you're asking, how do you know when to use colored pencil and how do you know when to use this other pastel pencil? And the answer is, I don't know, I just sort of make it up. So Dark Flesh is perfect. Look at that. It's a perfect match. And that's, when you get a bunch of pastel pencils, you need to make a color chart. And sometimes a color chart is useless, but you still need it to get a variety of colors that you need. You should be able to look at the color chart and pick a color. Because a lot of times, like if you have 7 dark browns, you don't really know what the difference is. Unless you have a color chart, so that's why you need one. So here I got a colored pencil. I'm just making black hairs within the brown hairs. So in other words, 3, 4 different colors. Here's the colored pencil, the black. So I get the black hairs there. Now I'm showing decks of cards. I'm just being silly. That's the end of the video. You can see the decks of cards. Some more colored pencil mixed with pastel pencil, the black mixed with the light brown. Just making little individual hairs at this point. And that is it. We'll be back next time, next video, we'll finish this up. Thank you for joining me. Hit like and subscribe. See you guys next time.